Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So, story time. It's time for story time. It's been a minute. I've been dropping the tips. I'm like, okay, let's switch it up, give y'all story time because I can always tell a story, okay? That's number one. Number two, I am on reserve today, 9 to 9. So I have my little Spy Kids Buzz Lightyear watch on, Apple Watch. I hate wearing this bulky watch because it just looks so manly. But I wear it especially on days that I'm on reserve. So if I get a phone call, it's crew support. I didn't miss that call because you do not want to miss that call. You really don't want to miss it being on probation, but I'm so used to that high anxiety life of being on probation that it's just regular now. So this is day one of a 6-day bucket. So hopefully I can get through this video. Hopefully I don't even get a call today. That would be the biggest blessing. But I'm hoping I can get through this video without being interrupted by crew support. Anyways, before we get started, I wanted to thank everyone for liking my content and sharing, and I want to thank all my subscribers. We are moving on up there. Come on. We are so close to 1,000. So continue to share, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the story time. So, a while back, I was in the mood to, make a little extra money. So I went on open time and I was like, let me see if there's a trip that I can pick up. Now, for me personally, if I decide to pick up a trip, it would be a turn. So basically like going somewhere and coming back in the same day. Like I don't want to sleep somewhere else. I want to get back in my bed at night, okay? So I'm looking on open time, and I need an incentive, baby. Give me an incentive for me to get up out of my house and go make some money. On top of getting paid for the flight. I need both. So, listen, when it comes to that, set your own standards, but those are my standards. I am not stepping out the house for free, okay? It already costs to basically breathe. So no. Anyways, I'm on open time. I see a trip for a turn. Now, sometimes on open time, it will show the, we'll just call the person whose trip I picked up, we're gonna call her, what are we gonna call her? Let's call her Kelly. I haven't used a Kelly yet. I don't think I've ever used a Kelly. So, Kelly's whole trip is posted. She had like a 3-day. However, what's highlighted is what she wants to give up. She wanted to give up her last turn, which is 2 legs. Like one leg, I want to say we were going to Louisiana and back. Yeah, so she wanted to give up those last 2 legs. So I was like, okay, cool. And she also put an incentive on it. So I was like, okay, Kelly. She had her phone number listed on the side. So it was like, incentive. And then she was like, text me, if you want to pick up. Now, side note, which hopefully I'm not including a bunch of side notes, but just for people who are new to the whole flight attendant lifestyle and how picking up trips work and things like that, typically the person, Kelly in this instance, the person who is trying to get rid of their trip will put their phone number, and if they have an incentive, they'll put their incentive right there. If they happen to not put their phone number, you can always click on the trip and then look at their full name and the ID number. Make sure those 2 match up with the highlighted area. And then you can just go to your email, start typing in their name and their full name, and employee number will come up, and you can just message them and say, hey, I saw your trip on open time and I'd like to pick it up. Here's my phone number for quicker communication. I've done that before because I didn't see their phone number and they text me in like the same hour, and then we just were able to make those arrangements. Anyways, back to the main story. So I see Kelly's trip and I'm like, okay, Kelly had an incentive. But I was on my closed mouths do not get fed. So I was like, I see your trip. I see your incentive. However, I would love to pick it up if you want to put a couple more dollars on it. She said yes. I was like, okay. So don't be afraid to ask, would you be willing to do it for a little bit more? Okay. So I asked her, she said yes. Mind you, when I texted her, she texted me back within the same minute. Like, it might have been 30 seconds. Like, it didn't even say delivered. I feel like she texted me back immediately. I was like, wait, that was fast, right? Remember this part, okay? So, me and Kelly's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I feel like I should have asked for double the way she texted me back that fast. So I ended up picking up the trip. I call crew support, pick up the trip, and then I let her know, hey, I just picked up the trip. Now, typically it takes, I don't know, it may take up to 5 minutes for it to show on her end that the trip is removed, and then the trip will be added on my end. I just got off the phone with crew support, and the trip is now on my schedule. Before it even really processes and gets on my schedule, Kelly sends me the money. And I'm like, that was fast. Like, this girl, I like Kelly. Like, Kelly moving fast. Kelly like, thanks girl, thank you so much. She sent me the thank you so much, 2 hearts. I'm like, anytime. Like, Kelly was just giving good vibes. Like, that was the quickest, the fastest turnaround of picking up a trip ever. Like, normally when I pick up trips, the person may be busy or they may be on a flight or whatever the case may be. However, Kelly was like on her phone and ready to give this trip up. So I'm like, okay, cool. I get the trip. Now, the trip was maybe like, I think it was like let's say it was a 5:30 show time. So I'm on the way, 5:30 p.m. I'm on the way to work and I get into a little bit of traffic. I forgot that, that was like the traffic time. However, I was fine. Once I get to the airport, the shuttles were running a little bit late, like it was a little delayed. So now I'm running late, right? And now there's levels to being late. Now, side note, if you're on probation, these levels don't apply to you. Don't be late, don't be kind of late, don't be 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. You need to be there. When you're after probation, it's, a little more leeway, okay? So in my levels of being late, so there's check-in, and then there's, after you check in, you have like, sometimes it can be up to 20 to 30 minutes before boarding, depending on if the plane is running on time. So, because the shuttles were running late, I didn't check in. I checked in like maybe 10 minutes after, and then I basically got to the gate, and there was only like 3 minutes before boarding. So very, very tight schedule. Now like the last level of being late is to where boarding has started. That means you're late. That's when the gate agent is ready to snitch. The gate agent is like, I'm gonna call her boss. I'm calling her boss and we need to find out where she is. That's when the supervisor is calling you like, where you at, little girl? Because you're supposed to be here and we need to board. Because you need to have both flight attendants or all flight attendants if you're with a different airline on board before you can start boarding the plane. So I had 3 minutes to spare, but I made it, okay? Oh, and another tidbit, mind you, it's hot. It's like 158 degrees in Dallas. So it was hot, makeup, sweat, makeup running a little bit, uniform sticking to my back. Then I was rushing, trying to get to the gate, and it was so hot, and I had my EFAD sitting in my cup holder in my car. So the sun was beaming through and hitting the EFAD that the EFAD overheated, okay? And the EFAD would not turn on. Like every time I pressed it, it would say, phone is overheating, like give it a few minutes, you know, whatever that little message is. So it said that. And I'm like, oh Lord, like how am I gonna read the announcements? Like I don't got time for this. I'm about to be late. I don't want the supervisor calling me talking about where you at. So I'm just like, you know what, just get there, and you'll figure it out. I make it, get on board. So I picked up Kelly's shift and she was the aft flight attendant. So I'm now the aft flight attendant for the rest of this trip. And I was with the forward, okay? I step on the plane, I'm like, hey, and you know, being all welcoming, even though I'm rushing, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I still bring in a good energy. I don't bring in like whatever I'm going through to work. So when I stepped on board, I was like, hey, and the forward was like, you're late. Hi, how are you? Like, first of all, I'm not late. There's literally 3 minutes to spare before boarding. That's number one. Number two, what does me rushing and in 3 minutes before boarding have to do with you? Because honestly, if I just took the shift from the last person, that means that the plane is technically already pre-flighted. So really, I'm just double checking, but I can do that while the plane is boarding, like, but regardless, so she already has this kind of very stank attitude. And I'm like, okay, am I the one who was in the 158 degrees and running to get to work, or was it you? Like, I don't understand, where is this negative energy coming from? But whatever, I just let it go past. I'm like, okay. So I'm like in the middle of putting my stuff up, and she was like, and I was saying hey to the pilot and first officer, and the forward was like, we need to give her a name. All right, have y'all seen that movie Matilda? She reminds me of the teacher, not the nice teacher, the mean teacher, Miss Trenchbull. That's what we're gonna call her, Miss Trenchbull. That was the forward. Miss Trenchbull. Please drop a purple heart if you've seen Matilda, okay? And this lady is giving Trenchbull vibes, like drop a purple heart. Anyways, so Miss Trenchbull, in the middle of me talking to, like, introducing myself to the pilot and the first officer, she's like, go do your pre-flight. And I'm like I literally just start laughing, because I'm like, am I being punked? Like, why? What the hell is wrong with you? Like, why are you giving me all this attitude? Like, mind you, I've never worked with her before. So it's just kind of like, where is this energy coming from? Who are you talking to? Because I'm not your child. So I'm like, okay, we're obviously dealing with a power struggle off rip. But it's just like, I don't understand where the attitude was coming from. So I was just like, okay, whatever. I laugh it off like, you're a joke. And I go to the back and we started boarding, because mind you, at 3 minutes, like I was literally very slim on time. So I go to the bag, I'm doing the pre-flight, yada, 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 and then we're boarding, I'm saying hello to passengers, being vibrant, because I know Miss Trunchbull is up there being, negative Nancy, negative energy, because I'm like, that's what you gave me. So I can't imagine that you flipped the script and you're just being nice to passengers all of a sudden. So we board. I come up, I'm like checking everyone, making sure seatbelts on, everything like that, doing the normal procedures. When I get up to the front, and side note, anytime I'm telling a story time, I will never like reveal who it is. Like, that's not my intention of like trying to talk about people. I'm just explaining the story and what happened. Anyways, so I go back up to the front, and mind you, this is my first time working the aft and working and having to use the cashless device. So typically I'm the forward flight attendant. I rarely ever worked the aft. And it was also the time where we were like doing alcohol sales using the cashless device. Now, because I come from a time where we were wearing masks and I was the first class of, the new era, we never talked about the cashless device. I didn't know what that looks like. I know nothing about cashless sales. That was never covered in training, like ever, ever, ever. If it was, maybe I was asleep. It was never covered. So, when I go up to the front, Miss Trunchbull is like, you need to set up your cashless device. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you know what? I've actually never used this product before. Like, do you mind like showing me how to set it up? And she's like, you don't know how to set it up? And I was like, no, I don't. Like, and she's like, well, next time you should come a little bit earlier if you don't know how to set up your cashless device. And I said, okay. So do you mind showing me? And so she proceeds to show me, but in my head, I'm kind of like, what is going on? Like, when I tell you her energy was just so negative, and I'm just like, I decided, well, one, I'm not a person that's going to go back and forth with anyone, especially not at work. But like in those moments where she was like being rude, I was just deciding, you know what, like, I'm not about to react. I literally have 2 flights with her. I'm not, like, we're not doing this. And it's just like, she already gives me reactive vibes. Like, she's already being rude and nasty. So it's like, if I'm rude and nasty, it would just be a snowball effect. And it's like, for me, I'm like, girl, you already picked up this trip and it's gonna be quick. And I'm like, no wonder why Kelly was so quick to give that trip away, because she was working with Miss Trunchbull. No wonder. I'm like, I should have known something was up when she texted me back in 30 seconds. Like, I should have known, but I was just like, whatever. Now I know. So, Miss Trunchbull, she helps me with the cashless device, but that was also in a rude way. The way that Miss Trunchbull was helping me set up the cashless device, she was slick rushing me, and like, she was rude about that too, but I'm not about to nitpick that. She was rude. So I was just like, okay, like, I'm sorry that I'm inconveniencing you to help me, whatever. But I'm being cool about it. I'm like listening to what she's saying what to do, but she's saying it really fast, and then she's like annoyed about it, like she doesn't even want to help me. That's her vibe. So I'm like, okay. So boom, get it set up. Then on top of that, remember how I told you guys that my EFAD was overheated. So I, of course, don't have the announcements memorized by heart, and you have to refer to your EFAD to read the announcements. I go and I look at my EFAD, it still says overheated. And so I'm just like, bruh. Now I need to ask her, can I use her EFAD to read the announcements because my EFAD is overheated? And I'm just like, I really don't feel like asking Miss Trenchbold anything else because she already has her attitude is on 1 million. All right, so I think of the bright idea of, instead of being in possession of her EFAD, because Miss Trenchbold would have been like, you dropped it, you owe me a new one. Like, I don't have time for that. So I was just like, hey, my EFAD is overheated. May I take a look at your announcements? And I will basically screenshot them so that I can read them off until my EFAD cools down. She was like, okay, that's fine. Surprisingly, she was really cool with that. So I was like, okay. But I made it quick. I was like, don't hold on to her stuff more than 30 seconds because I don't want to hear her mouth. So screenshot the things that I needed, the announcements that I needed to read. I go back to my section. I read them off. Everything's fine. Everything's dandy. But in my head, I'm just like, Kelly really got me. Kelly got me because Miss Trenchbold is off the chain. Like, if my social battery was on 20%, I probably would have had to, like, I would have had to call a personal emergency. Like, that's how rude and nasty and condescending this flight attendant was. Like, I was just like, whoa. Time out. Wait a minute. Because why are you acting like this? That is the vibe that she gave me. But I was like, you know what? Just push through. It's 2 legs, and then you done. You won't even see her no more. So fast forward, we're up in the air. It's time to do service. Now, mind you, I'm the aft, and typically the forward will set up your cart. When I get up there, Miss Trenchbold did not set up my cart. So I'm just like, okay. So I set up my own cart. And then it's like, Miss Trenchbold is like looking at me like you can just feel when someone's just watching you, like, hurry up. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't even be up here this long had you set up my cart for me. So help me help you and set up my cart next time so I'm not sitting here in your space. Like, I don't understand. Like, she's literally, it was like she was hovering over me, and I'm like, move. Go do something. Like, why are you standing right here? So that was annoying. I go do my service, I come back, and now we have like 20 minutes left. And I'm just like, ugh, now I have to sit up here. I just bring my book, read my book, mind my business. But her energy was just so, like, nasty. I was just like disgusted. Like, I could throw up in my mouth how rude she was. And I was just like, oh my goodness. In disgust. So after that, we finish. The flight is done. Then it's time to do the next flight. So we don't really need to communicate at that point. Like, there was nothing to talk about. So I just, was in my area, minding my business. And then I think this time she set up my cart on the way coming back. So I was like, oh, like, are you trying to be nice now? So she set up my cart this time. So I was like, okay. So I come back, and I think, like, she was in the middle of doing trash, and then, like, someone in her first class needed something. So I ended up, preparing them a drink, giving it to them, and she was like, oh, thank you, you didn't have to do that. And I was just like, oh, well, we're a team, I don't mind. We're a team, I don't mind. Because I know if it was the other way around, I don't know what Miss Trenchbowl would have done. But I guess, you know, after that, like, you can just tell she started feeling bad, like, which she should, because she was nasty the whole flight. So after that, she's like sitting there and she's like, oh, do you want, she was sitting down, I was standing up, like sitting in the forward jump seat, and she was like, oh, like, do you want to sit down? And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, girl, don't try to clean it up now. Like, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Don't talk to me unless spoken to. Like, I'm good. So I'm minding my business or whatever. And then, so basically, I'm going to say that Miss Trenchbowl reflected on her actions throughout our time together. And at the end, she was trying to clean it up. So at the end, towards the end of our flight, on the way coming back to Dallas, she was like, hey, would you like some advice? And I was like, in my head, like, but I was like, sure. And then she was just like, you know, she gave me some advice about like the cashless device, just like about setting it up and what happens if it's dead and X, Y, and Z. So that was cool of her. Like, okay, cool. Because I did not have any training on the cashless device. And then she was just giving me a story time about how she's worked with other flight attendants who maybe have forgotten their EFAD and they got written up for it, and just telling me what to do in the event that my EFAD like died or didn't, you know. It ended up working later on the way back from the flight, but she was saying if it doesn't work, just contact the supervisor and then you can get an extra one from the crew lounge, like, you know, just trying to like give helpful advice, which I do appreciate. So I feel like she was trying to clean it up, be nice, give advice all at the end. But I'm like, girl, you on the do not bid list. Like, baby, it's sealed and deal. Thank you for the tips and the advice, but no, never again, honey. Because that was just, she was so rude, so nasty in the beginning. And I don't appreciate that. Like, I don't know what she was going through, but she just had an attitude in the beginning. And not only was it the attitude, but it was the delivery. The delivery is a really big thing. Like, talking down and that whole, like, I don't know if she let the seniority or her age get to her head to where she's talking to me as if I'm her child. Like, I don't know what it was, but I will say the delivery was a big issue. And I'm like, I could see why Kelly was so eager to drop the trip, because imagine working with someone who has that tone for 3 days. I might pay anything too to drop the trip. Like, get me out of here. So I say all that to say, like, there will be times when you're working with someone who is just not a vibe, who is just rude. And I'm gonna say she knew she was being rude. I don't know what her end goal was, but she, of course, cleaned it up. She also cleaned the delivery up at the end, but I'm like, it's a little too late for all that. I don't like you. But it was just crazy, y'all. Like, I cannot believe this happened. Aside from all of that, this does not always happen. I promise you it doesn't. I only have 3 flight attendants where I can really give you a story time, and that I would put on the do not bid list. But that's 3 out of like 100. So it's really not bad. I will say that maybe if I don't really vibe with someone, I'm also not someone that reacts. So there have been times where I've worked with other people who may have said something that was in a condescending tone, or it was just what they said or, you know, did was rude, or they were just kind of standoffish. But I'm just someone who, I don't react to a lot of things. So it's a different outcome, right? So I just want to tell you guys who are flight attendants, who are thinking about being flight attendants, who are getting yourself into the game, like, definitely you save a lot of time and energy by not reacting, okay? Before you find yourself wanting to get into an argument with another flight attendant, remember that you're probably not going to work with them again. So why even bother? Like, the trip is going to be short. You don't have to see them no more. That is the beauty of this job, is that you don't work with the same people. It's always someone new. I have very few times where I work with the same person. Like, maybe if I work with someone again, it would be twice, no more than twice. But yeah, guys, so that was my story time about Miss Trenchbold. That was crazy. When she said, "You're late," I was like, am I being punked? Like, no. Girl, who are you talking to? Cause what? But that's what happened. I made it through, saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm glad it's over. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this story time, and I will see you in the next video.